Hello and welcome to Le Bureau. This will be a reformer intermediate workout going for about 15 minutes. We'll be using a yoga block in between our upper inner thighs to accent our midline and connect us more strongly to our center. With a block between our inner thighs, let's begin with some simple pelvic tilts. Inhale, anterior tilt. Exhale, posteriorly tilt. Becoming aware of our low spine, low pelvis. Then let's continue with some pelvic clocks, moving in one direction. And we reverse that direction, giving that block a little squeeze that'll reach down through our feet as we come back to center. And we'll find neutral spine, place right in between. Hug that midline using that block. And inhale, press out on our toes, beginning our footwork. Giving that block a little extra pull to center, especially when we exhale, accent the carriage closing. Maintaining our lift of our posture, our length of our spine, head reaching through the shoulder blocks. Toes keep driving forward into the foot bar, as do arches. Never losing the push, the stretch away. Using our abdomen, our center to drag the carriage back in. Continuing on our heels, about 10 reps. Feeling that connection from our heels up into our sit bones. Feeling our posterior chain. Again, never allowing our legs to pull us down. Keeping that inner lift as we flex at the hip and knee. Right back on our 10 toes, still squeezing that block. Pulling our two sides, right and left, more closely to the center line. Narrowing through our waist. Cinching through our low abdomen. Keeping that collarbone wide and the back ribs, back of the scapula, pelvis flush up into that mat. Lifting our back up as we lower down. All right, continuing with the 100. Keeping the block for the 100. Full breaths here, pumping our arms vigorously up and down, pumping our chest open as we strengthen our back, reaching our limbs, arms and legs forward in opposition to lifting our spine taller and longer out the roof crown of our head. Again, with every exhale, we squeeze that block a bit more to find a deeper connection, sensing our two sides pull into midline. Continuing with our short spine, we'll lower the headrest, remove one spring, so we're on 2 springs. This is a Contrology reformer. Looping our handles in the straps. Still using that block to accent to our center line. We'll inhale, stretch out. Exhale, pull in. Couple frog to really connect our legs into the rest of our body here. And then we'll hinge at the hips, bend the knees, and stretch back out. Just a little prep. Really connecting here. Head to scapula, to ribs, to pelvis, up through thighs, out through feet, into the strap. Now we'll exhale, peel up one bone at a time, broadening, opening our spine, bending our knees, and then rolling down one bone at a time. Stretch out, hinge, pelvic tilt to peel low, mid, upper spine up and off. Bending the knees at the top, and then rolling that spine down one bone at a time. A few more times. Keeping that collarbone wide, staying grounded on the center of our skull, not to collapse into our neck. Be sure to lift our spine up as we reach the legs in opposition, tractioning our body taller and longer with each repetition. Try to move one bone at a time, especially through the small of the spine. Continuing on with coordination, we'll lift the headrest. Reset those shoulders up against the shoulder blocks, elbows at 90 degrees, and then inhale, stretch out. Exhale, bend the knees, elbows follow. Enhancing our two-way stretch, limbs reach far away. So strong, muscles hugging the bone on all sides, head pulling taller and longer out of our pelvis, back ribs, scapula, pelvis flush on the mat. Continuing with our rowing. Moving the carriage in as I had it in second gear, now it's at first. Only one spring now on the reformer. Make sure you have space between you and the back of the carriage to roll back onto. Elbows wide and lifted. We'll inhale, roll back, open wide. Exhale to press back, strengthening our back. Reach the arms up and out of our pelvis, circle wide around to the side as we reach forward. 2 more times. Keep that width in your collarbone chest, strengthening our back. Head pulling up and over, widening our chest, lifting our back taller and longer. Okay, continuing with rowing 2. Elbow points up out of armpits. We'll inhale, stretch back. Exhale, hinge forward. Lengthen fingers out of outer hips. Release our head from our back. Reach the arms and stretch up and over again. Circle the arms wide to the side and around. Low waist up and in opposition to that reach. Keep finding that two-way stretch. Get taller and longer with each repetition. Fingertips really reaching. Keep that width in your collarbone chest as you stretch the arms up overhead, right out of the small of your back. Got one more here. Lift up to go back. Lift up to go forward. Lengthen the sides of the waist out of the fingertips. Head releases, collarbone widens, strong back body. Pressing the thighs down into the mat. A little extra stretch and then pull yourself up. Peg the handles, turn around. We'll continue with our rowing series. Legs are long. Sitting nice and tall up on our sit bones, low back super tall. Rowing 3, inhale, reach forward, exhale, tap lightly, inhale, stretch up, get taller, exhale, circle around. You gotta keep finding more lift, more length with each repetition. Adjusting the neck and head, checking in with that upper spine. The head, throat stay back, ribs stay back in opposition to the reach of the arms. Traction through both sides. Feels so good. Rowing forward, diving forward, articulating up, stretch up, lift up, and then circle around. It's an inhale to go forward. Pull the stomach in, exhale to go up, inhale to stay up, get taller, and exhale to circle around. Feet are flexed, hamstrings pressing down with so much strength. Keep lifting yourself. Good, continuing with rowing. 5 and 6, we've got our hug and our shaving coming up. You can use the block here between the soles of those feet. You can press into that block to really connect all the way down through your lower body. Sit bones, outer feet pressing down in the mat, squeezing that yoga block to feel that sense of lift from the arches of the feet up to the center knee, outer center hip, up into the core of the pelvis, at the roof of the mouth. So strong. We can transition right to our hug. Big wide arms. Find a rhythmic breath that works for you. Keep checking in with your head and neck. Keep pressing into the straps, start to finish. Very nice. All right, we'll take the block out. Continue with our swan, getting our long box. Placing a pad for the front of my hips. And then I'll change it back to second gear. I would recommend this if you're tall like me. I'm about 5'9", with super long legs. So I position the front of my pelvis, upper thigh, right on the sticky mat. And continue with my swan here. About 3 reps in our swan. Keeping the knees bent as you inhale, reach up and back. Open wide, exhale, hover the mat. Inhale, full reach. Exhale, dive up to a high diagonal. Engaging low waist, ribs into the back. Again, knees stay bent for the first swan. Arms go wide, hover the mat. Inhale, rise up taller, longer. Exhale, dive out, hug that center line, hovering the mat, and release. Plenty. And there are 2 springs on for the swan. Now go back to 1 spring for pull straps. Lie prone on top of the box. I'm going to accent my midline using my yoga block in between my upper and inner thighs. So I can really stand in my lower body. My legs are participating, although they're not moving. Maintains a sense of plank. Take a couple pelvic tilts so you really get that nice neutral pelvis. Hip points are down. And inhale, pull back, open chest. And exhale, resist those arms back down. Really engage from the upper back, right underneath the armpit, chest. Stand in the rest of your body. The rest of the body is working so hard. Pull straps 2. Palms turn face the floor. Capital V position to start. Then pulling outer fist right into the outer hip. Plenty. Go ahead, step off. Continue with our backstroke and our teaser. 1 more spring on, so we're at 2 springs now for backstroke. Align your tailbone all the way to the very edge of that box. Then right away, lift your legs up and lift your arms up. Tabletop, hands right above our shoulders. And it's inhale to stretch up, open circle, hug that center line, exhale, pull it in, back to all 4 position. Hands on top of forehead, knees on top of hips. Then reverse it. It's an inhale, push out, keep the push as you open, circle around, exhale, come back home. Good, plenty. Take the straps in 1 hand, roll onto your pelvis, take 1 spring off. And we'll get the block for this one as well. Again, just to keep us in the game with our lower body. Placing that block right between the upper and inner thighs. We'll roll back down. Align the base of the scapula right to the back of that box to help us open our chest. Lengthen those legs. Allow for a nice supple lift underneath our spine. Stretching our low belly, front spine. And we rise up 3 pumps here. It's a strong 2-way stretch. We squeeze that block to keep those legs in the game. Keeping the reach forward as we articulate our spine, and arms, legs release. Nice supple spine on the chin. Help ourselves by lifting our legs up a little bit. Give us our leverage of our pelvis pressing down and back in opposition to our legs reaching forward and long. Articulate your spine best you can, and then release. Find that nice suppleness in that back body. Leverage the pelvis, coming up again, circling those arms, reaching back as much as we reach forward. And stretch. Release the handles in the well. Take the block out, roll up, come up and off. And we will set up for our long stretch series. Again, I'm fairly long, so I'm going to lift my headrest up and then change it back to second gear. I'm going to place 2 springs on total. I'm just add one more. Lift my foot bar up, place my hands, place my legs. Today I'm placing my heels right on my 2 shoulder blocks. And I'm going to use that block. Why not? Trying to maintain a nice strong plank. Head to tail, tail to ankle. Squeezing that block up through the core of my pelvis, center of my heart, out the roof of my head, crown of head. Arms are strongly pressing to keep lifting my waist, sternum up. Toes pressed down, lifting my upper thighs, low belly in. Transition to down stretch. Knees are down, accenting that extension, lengthen the front spine without collapsing, without losing the support of my back body. My hands press down to help me pull the sides of my spine up, right and left, front and back. Collarbone wide, gazes lifted forward and up. Thighs, heels keep pressing back and squeezing gently into that block. Transition to up stretch. Find a nice C curve, head to tail, adjust the scapula up on the back. Careful to not just pike the hips up as you return. You want to C curve your spine from the top to the bottom. Squeeze that block strongly so you keep those legs participating in that C curve. Wide collarbone even here. Stand in your legs, hug to the center line. So legs press down, it doesn't pull your whole posture down with them. There's this 2-way stretch. Transitioning elephant. Lifted scapula, releasing head, floating ribs lifted, pelvis drawing under slightly. Keep squeezing that block up as you drive the heel bones down. Working our low waistline, driving the carriage in with our stomach. Taking the block out. Do arabesque, some variations. Leg goes straight back, keeping our frame, hip, shoulder square to the mat. Just 5 reps there. Taking the leg lateral to the hip, keeping our frame still. Energy through our legs. And bring the leg forward, which is the most demanding. Keep it chin tucked to the chest. And we got side 2, arabesque, legs straight back through the shoulder blocks. Keep pulling your 2 thighs in toward one another as if you had a block. Leg goes lateral, accent the carriage closed. And leg goes forward, scissor up through those upper inner thighs, arms strong, right heel pressing, and then stepping off. Okay, you should be sweating by now. Taking hold of that block now for long back stretch. I'll place that block between my upper inner thighs. I'm still on 2 springs of second gear. Stretch my heels up against the shoulder blocks. Spine is long, neutral pelvis. I press out, pelvic tilt, lift my hips, chest to come back home. And again, I never lose my reach. I keep pushing back with my hands, pressing forward with my heels, and reverse the motion. Press out, lift your pelvis, chest. Squeeze that yoga block to integrate your 2 thighs into that center line. Good. Pull yourself up and off. We can transition to stomach massage series. Sink that pad in. 3 springs total. You can always do more, always do less. Find a good position so you're between sit bones and tailbone. Really sustain that anchor. Then C-curve your spine, rounding low, middle, upper spine. And it's not just rounding, it's a round and a lift. In fact, the lift is more important than the round. The round is so you open that back, pull with your hands. Draw your head, your throat, your scapula broad and up. Toes push away in that two-way stretch, hollowing your middle, engaging front to back body. Good. Transitioning 2 springs, tall back. Feel your 2 sit bones root down, stay anchored, hands press back, toes press forward. Keep using those anchors, seat, toes, hands, to help lift your spine on all sides. Wide collarbone, firm shoulders on the back. Stay grounded here. Deep flexion in the hip, low belly in and up. Hands off now, just a few times. Try to keep the heels squeezing and lifted, toes driving forward into the foot bar, start to finish. Easy shoulders, sense the fingertips reaching out of the low back kidney area. Then lace the hands for a little twist. We'll rotate with elbows wide, hands laced between your heads. We don't over twist using our head and neck. We're really finding that rotation in our waist ribs. Pelvis for the most part stays square. Toes even pressure, squeezing your heels so you sense that center line. It's almost as if a rotation, you lift up above your navel line. There you go, lift up. And then armpits right to the upper knee there, so you can really leverage your belly, spine on top of your thighs. Then you can ending with a great stretch is always nice. A little pulse here, expansiveness in your back body. Head releases. Once you've had enough of that, we'll transition now. Feels good. With a bit of overhead. All right, setting up now semicircle. So setting up the carriage. A bit of chest expansion and thigh stretch. Bringing the carriage into first gear. So carriage is closed. Sure I have 2 springs on. Spring. Grabbing my block to accent to the midline. Squeezing that block. Oops. Remembering that I need the stoppers, especially for semicircle. So coming up to fix that. Just 2 blocks at the end of the carriage. Setting my handles back on. Okay. Ready to go. Taking my block, placing it in between my upper and inner thighs. Headrest is down, holding onto my handles with my 2 hands. And reaching my legs long. Feeling my back anchored on that mat. I'm going to use my stomach as I squeeze the block to float my legs up to 90. Arms lower, then I'm going to pike up and over. Hips on top of shoulders, stand in my upper back. And with control, roll down. Again, stack hips on top of shoulders. Stay off the neck. So chin stays a little bit up. Arms strongly reaching. Try to really articulate one bone at a time. Stretch the back open, one bone at a time. Keep standing in your upper back, arms. Little pause when you hinge at the hips coming up and off the carriage. Little pause right there, and then you lift up to go over, just so you can really accent that low abdomen. Good, then we'll bend our knees, continue with our semicircle. Headrest goes back up. Toes on the foot bar, still holding on to that block to accent my midline. I'm going to press out to a nice bridge position, standing on my shoulders, back of skull. I'm going to roll down best as I can. Bottom to the floor. Keep that as I press out. Roll my back up. Keep the reach back as I come forward with my thighs, knees, roll it down, upper, middle, lower. Keep anchoring the mid-back into that carriage. Peel the back to come up, and then keep the reach back to go forward. Reverse it if you haven't. So keep the reach back to go down. Close the carriage with the pelvis staying low, then peel your two sides up. Got one more here. Push out, roll it down, pull it in, roll it up, back to your bridge position. Carriage is closed. Take a little stretch, grab the ankles, drive the heels down, thighs long, chest open. Use your hands to pull yourself back on. Nice work. Now we'll go ahead and come off and transition for chest expansion, thigh stretch. We'll keep 2 springs. Then kneel on top of the reformer. Grab hold of the straps above the handle. Find a nice lifted posture, kneeling. Balance point is slightly forward, so you feel the floor of the front of the pelvis, and pull back standing in your whole body. Turn your head right and left, and then resist the springs to come back in with the carriage. This is the challenging one, to really stand in our lower body. Keep breathing deep breaths into the back of the ribs. We're not pushing our front ribs out. We're centering our rib cage on top of our pelvic bowl, and then our head right up on top of that. Reversing which way you turn with each repetition. A good stretch in the neck, within your collarbone. Then transitioning to thigh stretch, taking one more spring on, so you have a total of 3 springs, reaching higher up the handles. Elbows are soft, balance point is forward on the knees, and we'll inhale, hinge back from the top of the thigh. Get as long as possible, then exhale. Use your waistline and pull yourself back up on that same long line. There's a little lift of your thumbs. Give you that space of your hands pulling away from your center. The center can do its work to lift you. Then trying a little back bend. We'll replace the straps, lift the foot bar up. Stay on all our springs. Keep those handles pegged. Hands to hips, find that neutral pelvis. Root down through our lower body, reach forward and up. And over. Nice big back bend. And then 3 times we'll press out and bend our elbows. Try to squeeze those inner elbows toward one another. Hands reach out of the scapula. Hold the arms straight, and then just a little pelvic tilt here with the thighs, accenting more pull to center every time we drag the carriage back in. Then we stand on our 2 legs and lift up and back down. Back to kneeling. Stepping off, we have our arm circles. So we'll go to 1 spring total. Foot bar is down. Take hold of our straps, squeezing that block strongly between our 2 thighs. We'll reach the arms forward and up and circle around. Forward and up and circle around. Keep working your 2-way stretch. Using the block here again to accent our 2 sides into our center. Squeezing that block up as we circle, squeezing that block up as we lower those arms. Standing taller and taller. Transitioning into our shave. Elbow slightly forward of the scapula, so the shoulder is strongly on that back. And release. Stepping off, getting ready for snake and twist. I'm going to bring it back out to second gear because again, I'm fairly long legs. I start with 2 springs, but I quickly realize that's a little too strong for me. So I step off and I change it back to 1 spring. Okay, here I go again, placing my hands, crossing right ankle over left shin. So it's an inhale to push out, exhale, level my sacrum, look forward, inhaling, nod the chin, exhale, pull it closed. Snake twist, rotate, inhale, come out of that twist, exhale, pull it up. Stepping off. Side 2. I am sweating. Crossing left shin over right, or left ankle over right shin. Here's snake. I inhale, push out, exhale, level, pelvis, chest, look up and inhale, exhale, pull it in. Snake twist, press out, inhale, rotate on the exhale. Inhale, de-rotate, exhale, pull in. Plenty. That's a hard one if you don't do it regularly. And I have not been doing that one regularly. Okay, now we have corkscrew coming up and long spine stretch and a little windshield wiper tick-tock. I'm really sweating here, if you can't see. So I'm going to use that yoga block again to place in between my inner upper thighs for corkscrew and for windshield wiper. Again, just to really accent my midline, pull my 2 sides into the center line. I'm going to stand in my back, my skull, my scapula, my back ribs, pelvis as I get set. And squeeze the shoulder blocks and squeeze my inner elbows in to broaden my scapula, shoulders on my back. Doing a couple pelvic tilts. Set my legs over my hips and I'm going to roll up and over. Squeeze yoga block, roll down right. Circle my legs up and around on my left. Pause center, roll down on my left. Squeeze that center line, roll up on my right. Just a little bit more articulation on one side to go down and the other side to come up. Try to keep my chest open, my shoulders broad and stable, as well as my head, never coming on my neck, chin is slightly up. Try to not just let the legs fall down, but you articulate, you control that articulation all the way through. Squeezing that yoga block, opposing shoulder draws back in opposition. Good. Then bending those knees, keeping the legs straight, and we'll go right to windshield wiper to start with legs straight. Again, allow that opposing hip to lift up as you rotate through the waist ribs. I'm going to choose to bend my knees because my legs are quite a long lever. I really don't want to swing my legs back up, but I'm using my waist ribs to then pull my legs to follow. Again, always work from your center first, and the limbs will follow. So I draw my back waist ribs on the mat, and that will bring my legs back to neutral tabletop. Big stretch for your spine. Okay, then I'll take the block out. Take hold of my leg springs now for long spine. Excuse me, I'm going to try balance control, but I'm not going to roll off because I have no space. How I have my reformer set up. Shoulder stand, then I take one leg to the outside of the reformer, back up, and then I do the other side, trying to keep my hips level so my hip doesn't fall down with my leg. Try to keep reaching up with opposing leg, touching the ceiling, out of the toe, out of the navel. Good, and then roll down with control. Bending my knees, pulling myself back up. Shoulders up against shoulder blocks. I'll continue with my leg circles. Long spine. Just to connect, I'll take a few frog with the headrest down, feeling my connections head to shoulders, ribs to pelvis to knees to ankles into the strap. Use that push into the strap to grow my spine. Then I'm going to lift up, shoulders stand open, and reach to go back down with control. Open right through that center line. Keep the chest wide, strong back scapula on the mat. And again, I find more and more lift with each repetition. I'll reverse it now. I'll open my legs hip distance, lift up to go over. Toes don't go behind your nose, so you want to stand on your upper back. And plenty. Then continue with some frog. I'll re-extend my headrest up, gazing down my nose here so I can sense the top of the sternum, throat area really soften so I can sense my legs reaching out of my upper back, spreading my collarbone here, spreading my back ribs into the mat. Then I circle my legs, keeping my hips very still. Legs reaching out of the femur, out of the hip socket. Visualize my leg bones circling in my hip, creating that length and width. In opposition to my spine, reverse my circles. Flex point my feet a few times. Nice happy baby. Then I'll take a turn to stretch out the back of my hamstrings one at a time. Full stretch, and then I pull my legs together. Straps go off and in the well. With control, I'll come up and off. And I'll transition to kneeling knee stretch series. Setting my reformer, I'm at second gear. Using my yoga block. Foot bar is up. Headrest is up, block between thighs. I'm going to take a moment to set up in my round back. Again, starting with a couple pelvic tilts, and continue that tilt all the way up into the back of the skull. Round back, long round back, and I push and I pull, and I push and I pull, keeping my reaches, feet and hands, pulling that block up as I continue to drive energy back through my feet so my thighs don't do the work. Arms strong. Then transition tall back. Head pulls out of shoulders, chest widens. Using my hands forward for leverage to keep softening the front of my waist ribs into my back body. Then go back to my round back. Really pull everything up from the upper inner thighs and push and pull. Arms steady and strong, feet steady and strong. Try to keep my heart, back of my heart, the apex of this posture. Pelvis is lower than heart, head lower than heart. Keeping my long C curve. Gently lower the knees and add one more spring, stepping off for a run and pelvic lift. Feeling pretty good now. I'm dripping. You can't see it, but I am dripping. Going back to my simple pelvic tilts. Recalibrate if I need to. Level hips, shoulders. I'll press out and take a run. One heel down. Lift and then opposing heel. Splitting my legs one at a time. Keeping my toes pushing regardless what knee is up or not. Feel my femur bone glide deep down into my hip socket as I bend that knee. And then I up my rhythm a little bit. Keep breathing deep breaths. Keep lifting my spine taller and taller, wider and wider, in opposition to my legs running here. Continue with pelvic lift, opening my legs. The width of the foot bar, find a slight external rotation, move it into a couple pelvic tilts. The pelvis lifts up and off the mat, back ribs stay flush on the mat, sustaining my pelvic lift, and I'm going to inhale to push out, feeling my feet, lifting my spine, and then exhale to resist the springs as I close back in. Just a few more times. Really take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out as you return, slowing down a bit, feeling your body, how your feet connect to the foot bar, connecting all the way up into your head, shoulders, arms, reaching. Roll it back down. Hug the knees into the chest, in with a couple pelvic clocks. Just massage your low back sacrum. Work out any kinks that may still be lingering. And find your center, and you'll slide the feet shins in. Give yourself a nice little hug, little squeeze here. Massaging low back, little side to side. And then we'll step off and we'll continue with some splits. So first go to our front splits. Finding our 2 pads, sticky mats. One foot on the foot bar, opposing foot reaches back to the opposing shoulder block, spinning the toes in, heel back a little bit. Really stand on both legs, equal reach through both legs. Drive back through the front thigh, or back with the back thigh, and pull in with the front thigh, resisting with the back thigh. Hips are level. There's a sense of the outer right hip coming forward with the right leg back, and the outer left hip drawing back. The left leg is forward. Remember, that's a push-pull. You never lose the push as you pull the carriage back in. Lifting that back heel, lowering onto that back knee. For a low lunge, we push out on the in-breath. We pull in on the out-breath, lifting our front spine. Driving back through our back leg, down through our front leg, scissoring into the center line. Chest stays open. Reach out and up, lift yourself on the floor of the pelvis, upper thigh, out through your fingertips. And we go side 2. Again, back leg pushes out, front leg pulls in. Keeping your pushes as you use those inner thighs, low belly, as if you had a big block between those upper thighs to pull you back in. Unfold, stack shoulders on top of hips. Pelvis is vertical, so hips are vertical, hip points are lifted. You're not in a pelvic tilt. Circle wide, coming back down for our low lunge variation, so lowering back knee down. To inhale, you can drive it out. Keep that reach out. Exhale, scissor those inner thighs and pull it in. Nice deep breaths in the back of those lungs. Keep that width in your chest, those legs reaching longer and longer, spine growing taller and taller. Reach out and up, lift yourself, root down through both legs working. And then we'll step off, continue with our side splits. I have one spring on. Feet are parallel, toes point forward, hips level, shoulders level. I'm going to inhale, push out, and exhale, pull it in. Push it out, pull it in. And I'll hinge forward, the carriage out, soft knees here so I can really sense the back of my thigh, release my head, circle my arms. A lot of lifting going on here. Roll it up, reach forward, open wide. Return the carriage close. One more. Hinge forward. Increase the space between hips and navel. Let the arms dangle out of that low back. Pulling that waistline, ribs up, feet pressed down. And easy. Roll back up, reaching forward, and then reset. Stepping the foot that's on the carriage back on the carriage, or the foot that's on the platform, excuse me. Switching sides, so let's turn around and do our saw variation. So first we inhale, again, push and pull. Sensing your posture, that lift through all sides, back, front, inner, outer, left, right, back and front. Still very important, as well as our sides. We'll add their saw, rotating left, sawing pinky toe. Deepening our rotation to come up and center. Rotate right, saw that pinky toe. Keep standing in your opposing left thigh. Not collapsing in our arches. Arms are reaching in opposition of one another. Close the carriage back in. One more. Rotate, saw 3 and 2 and 1. Deep twist to come up. Re-square everything and right into side 2. Chin to chest, shoulders broad, collarbone wide. And arms lower. Gently step off, and we'll set up for our final exercise, which are the Russians. So I place one sticky mat in between the shoulder blocks on the headrest. Headrest is lifted. I go back out to second gear for my long legs. I'm going to step up on the carriage, hands on the shoulder blocks to help my balance. One foot reaches back to the foot bar, other foot right in the center of the headrest crease. Split my legs out, and then I'll bend that front leg to our lunge, square position. And I push and I pull, and I push and I pull. Back leg is stable and strong. Keep my lunge, unfold, reach out and up with my upper spine through fingers, and hands laced behind head. Now push and pull a few more times. Keep squaring off your hips, pulling to midline. Lift up through middle. Circle out and around, come back down, close the carriage, wiggle my heel right on the crease, and I go for my splits. Try to feel all sides of your legs. Try not to collapse in your left kneecap, left quad, but lift those muscles up. Stretch out, release your head, and pull the carriage in with those low waist inner thighs. And then side 2. Plant back foot, other foot right in the middle. Arc of the foot right in the middle of that crease. I split my legs out and then bend that front knee for my lunge and push and pull. Back leg stable and strong, hips level, collarbone wide. Find my lunge, unfold, vertical pelvis, reach my arms out of my low waist, inner thighs, and push and pull here. Working that back right hamstring. Lift up through my middle, circle around, close the carriage, adjust my heel more forward, and then I split out and pull in. Keep finding your length, keep finding your lift, your width. Find the final stretch, hips are as level as possible, spinning back thigh up. And voila, we did it. Nice sweaty mess.